Born Again.
Yes, speaking of good quality shows, episode 7.
Yes.
I'm gonna kick.
Quite an aggressive pace change.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we were almost straight in with Matt in the suit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I'm glad. This was something I really enjoyed. Like, I'm glad we're kind of like Matt has fully jumped back into the suit. Like, I was a little worried. We've had this build up. Last week we got him suit up because he's like, oh fuck it, I'm gonna go deal with this myself. I was like, is he gonna now second guess himself and be like, I shouldn't have got back in the suit? Like, and then we have this whole thing of like, he's fighting with himself of like if he should keep suiting up. Instead, it's like, no, we're fully back in as Daredevil, and if anything, a more brutal Daredevil. It feels.
I don't know if that was just because he felt he was the only one who could deal with Muse, though, and maybe now he'll go back to this kind of, oh, should I, shouldn't I?
Maybe.
There are definitely, I don't think it's as bad as people on the internet would say. I definitely feel like you can see sometimes what was pre-reshoots and post-reshoots with like the creative changes. There's parts that like just feel like that bank episode, although it was good, that where it starts feels a little off compared to what had happened in the episodes before. There wasn't like a natural flow, if that makes sense. It wasn't a bad thing. It was like, oh, he's just going to the bank. We'd established in the previous episode he needed to go to the bank.
Yeah.
So it wasn't completely out of pocket. But it cut any build up or anything. It was just, he is in the bank and shit's about to go wrong. Not a bad thing, but it just makes, I think, sometimes what's kept versus what's new a bit obvious.
Yeah, and I've noticed that. And there's been a couple of times where like I've noticed that's definitely like ADR, where they've changed how a line has probably been said or something, because of like context. Maybe it's changed. I mean, I will say there's one thing this week that has kind of disappointed me though.
Okay.
And it's ultimately how they've handled Muse's story.
Okay.
We talked about it last week. We loved how creepy Muse was. We loved this opportunity that they could have of having a running villain here, and then they've killed him off.
So, I'm going to give a bit of copium.
Okay.
Just a teeny bit. We spotted what's his face to his Muse in like the second episode, and we're like, oh, he's creepy as fuck. He's definitely Muse. People are speculating
he's not Muse.
that because he's a rich boy and he feels like an artist and he's a bit twisted, he's a copycat. And the real Muse is still going to be out there somewhere. And the real Muse is just going to use this to go a little bit quiet for a little while. And then maybe he's going to appear near the end of the season with another painting. And we're going to be like, oh shit, that wasn't really Muse. And I'm not saying I love it, but if you do that right, it can work.
It can. I do think it's just a stretch.
I need Marvel to stop killing off villains. I understand like the biggest problem in like the comic book style of storytelling is why doesn't Batman just kill Joker? And yeah, Batman won't kill Joker because he's against murder. At some point, the Gotham, when they've arrested Joker, has to push for the death penalty, right? Like, and I do get that, right? Like, if there was someone who's that deranged and dangerous as like a Joker level threat, eventually, even if in that state the death penalty wasn't valid, someone would go, can we just have like a mini referendum and we'll let people vote on whether we should execute this dude?
Yeah.
Like, let's make it a public decision. And I get that. But the reason comic book can't do that is purely because these characters are needed. You can make an interesting reason for your heroes not killing off their villains, like they do with Batman and Daredevil and Spider-Man and things like that. But you can't just have villains dying constantly because then you run out of good villains.
Yeah.
So how do you fix that? You let them stay alive, which is, and like when you do kill them off, they end up coming back 3 or 4 years later through some weird comic booky bullshit. Problem is, Marvel doesn't want to do the weird comic booky bullshit if people never really die,
Yep.
so they can't kill them off, but they keep killing them off anyway.
So I also, this is just out of like my theory on why Marvel also does this, or why they keep killing things off, because they've learned, or the response they've ever had of leaving something open-ended, they get bombarded for years of like, where's this person? What's happened to this? Why have we not seen this again? And like, obviously, that to a level, I imagine for the MCU of trying to have this like story, like people constantly being like, oh well, this person that still exists because you haven't got rid of them should have been here in our opinion. It's like they're cutting all that off because they're like, well, he's dead.
Yeah.
Something else that like I didn't mention last week because I kind of gave them benefit of the doubt, but I remember from when you did the Muse character profile, Daredevil's not meant to be able to sense him.
Yeah, so clearly they just changed that to make him operate a bit differently, make him a little bit less freakishly supernatural.
Yeah, but
I'm not sure I agree with that decision.
Yeah. I feel like it would have been way more interesting of a Muse storyline to include that, which also would have, but then that would have meant they can't kill him off in the second time we've seen him. So
that has given me another theory.
Thing to copium.
No, this copium is good copium, though.
Okay.
Like, bearing in mind how quickly I've pulled this together, well thought out. In the Netflix Daredevil series, you have Madame Gao, who is an operator of the hand. She's one of the fingers of the hand.
Yes.
She helps run the Black Sky Project, which resurrects Elektra and brings her back from the dead, which makes her undetectable to Matt. Madame Gao hates Fisk. At this point, she should anyway still. What if she brings Muse back to fuck with Fisk, and that gives him his kind of can't be detected weird bullshit. It makes him even creepier because he like loses his identity of the person he was before. Yeah. He is just Muse.
Yeah.
There was a non-zero option, and I'm not against that because then it does the comic booky thing of no one stays dead unless you physically burn the body and stay there until it's ashes. You cannot be sure anyone is dead.
I'd much rather that than them just be like, psych, that was a copycat. Like at least like you say, it brings in that also him potentially having the ability of like can't be sensed. It's just, to me, that's a cool thing. And if the first thing that forces Daredevil back is then someone he can't sense, would have been an interesting watch, especially with the show, with how they've been showing visually with the camera aspect ratios of like him focusing in on stuff. Like they could have done stuff like that and him then be like, and then they sort of show his confusion of like, oh, we can tell he's trying to focus in, but he's not getting anything.
Yeah, I do wonder if part of the reason they weren't too desperate to do that is because they obviously had the similar thing in the Netflix series when he was fighting hand soldiers and he couldn't sense them. So like stick them was like focus on their weapons, not on them, and use their weapons to work out where they are. So I don't know if they're like, oh, if we do that, people will just say we're copying Netflix, or possibly. If they just didn't particularly care about that for some reason. I don't know why that decision was made. I don't know if that was something that was left behind from the previous creative team and they couldn't fix easily.
Well, yeah, this is my like we know that some stuff has had to be kept and some they've not. Like I wonder if they had to kill off Muse for whatever the storyline is, so they couldn't make Muse a harder fight because then that drags it out longer and then they can't. Like I can get it with that way. It's just this is the first thing that like I feel like I kind of wish they'd handled Muse in a better way, but
I think that is a completely fair feeling.
yeah,
Um,
it's one of those.
what I will say on the sense of right now they're kind of scrapping stuff together and they're doing a brilliant job stitching essentially two different shows together. Apparently these last two episodes were 100% done just by the new creative team. So
That
they
makes
didn't in
sense.
these last two episodes they don't have anything they have to
Include.
work with. It's just from where the story is now is all them. So these last two episodes and season 2, as far as the people of the internet have pieced together, should just be the current creative team, which will finally, I think, give us a better idea of okay, what can we expect from Daredevil TV show going forward?
Mm.
And it looks like we're starting to boil towards this kind of task force versus the world.
Yeah, well, we also saw Daredevil back. We are seeing Kingpin back. Like,
absolutely.
This jumping to the end, but that final scene when Vanessa sends the text of like he's alone at this address to the Irish guy, I forget his name. I was like, I don't believe that she's selling out Fisk. In my head, I was like, she's setting up the Irish guy because he's no longer loyal. Of which obviously
Definitely left there to kind of have people squabbling, hasn't it? It's like, no, she's turning on him versus no, this is like their weird kind of way to show love for each other. She's a little bit upset they can't be criminals anymore. So he's like, oh, let's do something evil and conniving together. How romantic.
well, and I also think it shows that she still respects what he's trying to achieve because they obviously have some plan that we haven't been like they'd previously talked about. Because at the start of this, when he's like, I finally got the votes, it's obviously something they've planned in the past. But then
with Red Hook,
him there eating his meal, I was like, oh, is the Irish? I was like, oh, Irish guy's gonna walk in and sit down opposite him with a gun or something, and like basically goad him a bit and be like, this is it, it's time for a change
and
of
then
management.
Fisk's gonna rip his arms off and beat him with his own arms type vibe.
Yeah, instead it was cold as fuck. He's just eating his thing, and as soon as the guy whips his gun out, it's tap to the head, and he just goes, thank you, Michael, or whatever I forget his name.
Puck.
Thank you, Puck.
Yeah.
Just like,
I'm
so ice cold.
No matter which creative team it came from, I'm not just going to assess all the good things to the new creative team and all the bad things on the old team. I don't know where it started, but the way they have put together the Matthew and Kingpin becoming Daredevil and Kingpin again, and the symmetry there, and Kingpin gaining weight and his suit's like ripping slightly, and some of that like good old-fashioned English visual storytelling. Like this is the kind of stuff that, like, when you're like reading a book in school and they're teaching, they're like, they made the room blue to show the person is sad type shit. That like you feel like, oh, this doesn't actually happen when people write stories. This is happening in this show. We're literally seeing that, not just in the way it's written, but like the way shots are put together. Like last week, we both loved like the head bashing cut. Match cut, and all that coming together is telling a really compelling and well written story, and I'm really loving that. I'm not saying it's perfect. This show definitely has its flaws, but my god, them flaws are so minuscule in my opinion compared to the victories we're getting with some of the character storytelling and the action, that I'm just like, this show overall is so much better than it is poor.
Yeah, and like the little flaws where like you can tell stuff from the old direction and the new direction we merged. Like that's just, unfortunately, that is part and parcel of the situation we ended up with.
Yeah.
And
I don't think most people do it as well as they've managed it.
And at the end of the day, be glad we're getting a show that did completely like go in the correct direction. Like this could have been a lot worse. But yeah, the whole mirroring has been great. And like obviously we got to see the task force used. That's clearly going to build up. I'm interested to see how this goes for Fisk and Matt, because obviously we got some of those audio lines played again of like, I'll use the fullest thing of the law if you go back to your ways as well. He knows Daredevil's back. It's clearly wound him up. He's making sure not to let on to the media that Daredevil was involved. The whole BB report thing.
Just maybe to execute him.
He wants full control over like dealing with him. I wonder if Fisk in his sort of like power trip thing is the sort of person to set up a meetup with Matt to have a sit down again and be like, so you're going to admit that you're back? And kind of be like, I'm going to give you this opportunity to admit to me that you've gone back to your old ways.
A scene coming up in one of the next 2 episodes where they're at like a charity event, haven't we? That's got Wilson and Vanessa and Matt and Heather. And I imagine we're going to get that kind of face-off at that charity event.
Well, and we're going to get the thing that I talked about, like what happens when Matt finds out that his new girlfriend's the therapist. Like, it's clearly going to be at that.
Yeah. So apparently there's some shots in some teaser footage of Fisk dancing with Heather and Matt dancing with Vanessa. So it's going to be like a weird...
That's going to be some high tensions.
If they've done as good a job writing that scene as they've done some of the other scenes, that could be cinema.
His Heather's also like clearly starting to catch on to something is up with Matt.
I'm not one to judge people, right? I don't know how your blind boyfriend who disappeared for most of the night comes home, gets in the shower, you see his ribs battered and bruised to fuck. You go to ask him what's wrong after you get in the shower with him. He just kisses you and you're just like, yeah, fuck it. Everything else can wait.
Have you seen Charlie?
I'm an immortal and I understand that Matthew Murdoch is a very attractive Catholic whore. However, if you care about someone, would you not be like, okay, let's just slow down for a second. What the fuck is happening here? Are you okay?
Nah, man played the greatest reverse card in Uno ever. Just like, ha, I reverse and distract you with just arousal.
What I will say is the conversation they had after when they're like getting ready, and she's like, "Why did you lie about it?" Then he's like, "It's embarrassing." He's like a very honest reaction. Like if you did, or like if you do suffer from a disability, and as a result of that, sometimes you hurt yourself in what could be considered silly ways because you're blind. You might bump into things and bruise your ribs and. I mean, I bump into tables all the fucking time, and I can see completely fine, and it's embarrassing. Like when someone goes, "Oh, why are you limping?" "Oh, I walked into a table." That's embarrassing. It is, because like there is just that, oh, walk around the table. It's completely believable for a blind dude to be like, it's embarrassing when you're trying to be seen as like a competent adult and lawyer to admit you've got a bruised rib because you fell over walking. But at the same time, surely she goes, you don't bruise yourself that badly from bumping into something.
It's also like,
what did you bump into?
The other level of it as well is like, he's like, oh, there's a lot of trauma and I'm struggling to hold it down. It's like, you're saying that to a therapist. Surely you know she's then going to be like, yeah, because you need to talk about it. Like, you can't kind of lie about what's going on through like, oh, it's trauma and I'm just struggling at the moment to a therapist.
She will therapize you.
Yeah, you're basically being like, help me, is essentially what you're saying, even though you don't want her to. So, yeah, there's going to be that level of also her remembering that Daredevil said her name is another. I do think she's going to figure it out.
I think she's going to die. I think Bullseye's going to kill her.
I don't know about that. Does Fisk kill her?
Maybe.
Does something happen?
I'm fearful for Heather.
Like, she's going to be in between two people who have threatened each other if they go back to their old ways, who have both gone back to their old ways. Only one knows at the moment.
Yeah, and she has a duty of care to both. One as a girlfriend, one as a therapist.
Yeah. There's potentially some... that or
shenanigans.
She's gonna essentially just be like, I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm out of here.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if she just goes, Matt, you're clearly lying to me. I'm done with this shit. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Which is completely fair if someone's clearly lying to you and they're not going to be honest with you. But definitely interested to see where the show goes. These last 2 episodes are going to be amazing. We know we've got a bit more Punisher to come. This Task Force story's heating up. We're not going to get any major conclusions before the end of the season.
No.
We know the second season is currently filming. And while this won't make it into the news, I will just add there's been some set photo leaks of him in a new suit for season 2. We finally got the D's, baby.
Oh,
We
that's
finally
where
got
that's
the
come
D's.
from.
Yeah,
I
we got the
saw
D's on
that.
his chest. This motherfucker's gonna be. We're gonna get an actual superhero with the actual goddamn logo where it should be. No longer will we look at Daredevil on TV and go, "Why nothing here?"
I saw those because someone else pointed out like it looks like they've been painted on.
Yeah. I think it's supposed to be homage to the Back in Black suit, but I don't know much about that arc.
Right. I mean, yeah, I'm intrigued to see how this season wraps up. I think it will
Absolutely.
wrap up with them like essentially both being back in their ways and knowing
Yeah,
the others back
it's
in
going to
their
leave
ways.
us on a cliffhanger, I
Yeah.
imagine. So yeah, interesting for sure.